The reality is, as much as people would like to pretend we're not, we're still in a pandemic. There are Canadians who die every single day because of COVID-19 in our hospitals. We need to make sure we're doing everything we can to keep Canadians safe. But what will also further damage our tourism industry is if we get another wave, if we get more serious impacts from COVID. That's why every single time we have been anchored in science. We're reflecting on what the best way to do to make sure that we can get back to the things we love as quickly as possible without putting ourselves at risk for further health crises, for further economic shutdowns, for further hardship that COVID has caused.
We just saw a clip there of Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau defending his government's actions of leaving the travel mandates and travel restrictions in place at the border. In this video, we look at who is saying what about these travel restrictions and what exactly is the science behind leaving these mandates in place for travel. Let's tackle this right now. Okay guys, like always, if you can like, share, subscribe, and follow to all of my social media platforms, including YouTube. YouTube is very helpful with these videos as I'm trying to build a platform on there. So if you could specifically subscribe to that one, that would be great. And at the end of these videos, when you see me point to the videos to watch, you can't watch them on Facebook because they're only on YouTube only. So please subscribe to my YouTube channel. It would be very helpful. Okay guys, so just a few days ago, the Justin Trudeau government voted in to keep the travel restrictions, the vaccine mandates in place at the border. So we're going to look at who is saying what about these travel mandates, if other people in tourism and travel want them in place or not, and what science could possibly be used on the continual justification of these travel and vaccine mandates and restrictions at the border for Canadians and international travelers coming into Canada as well as leaving Canada as well. Let's look into this right now, guys. Okay, so first we need to take a look at what are the border restrictions in Canada right now for travel. Let's have a look. Foreign tourists will continue to be required to provide proof of being fully vaccinated, and unvaccinated Canadian citizens or permanent residents are also still required to show proof of a molecular COVID-19 test taken prior to entering Canada and quarantine for 14 days. All travelers coming to Canada, regardless of citizenship, must also continue to submit their health information through the ArriveCan app prior to entry. Randomized testing for the fully vaccinated also remains in place. Interesting about that ArriveCan app, right? It's not government tracking or collecting data or our health information directly on our phones to the government, is it now? So we're going to start off with a clip of a CBC reporter asking Minister of Transport Omar Al-Gabara about the justification of the vaccine mandates. And watch how he deflects his answer to how other countries are handling their mandates, as well as deflect to the default position of health and safety. Let's take a look.
The government has yet to provide an answer, right? But in effect, you're just asking Canadians to simply trust you when they look around the world and they see dozens and dozens of countries doing the opposite, right? Lifting a lot of these requirements. And I do want to, just before I let you go, ask you about one other one. And the vaccine mandate that is in place for people who are traveling domestically. What is your justification, your government's justification for keeping that in place?
Vashi, look, many jurisdictions around the world or in Canada at home with different provinces continue to have vaccine mandates. I just traveled to Germany. I just traveled to the United States, and both countries had a vaccine mandate at their borders. So the vaccine is proven to
I understand at the border. I'm just asking domestically. I completely understand for the border, yeah.
Vashi, it's all guided by our desire to protect the health and safety of Canadians. Obviously, these measures will always be reassessed and assessed, and we are constantly having discussions with our experts about when is the right time to adjust this measure or that measure. The same applies for domestic travel. These measures are, again, done to protect the health and safety of Canadians, just like mask wearing as well on airplanes, on trains. These are done to protect the health and safety of Canadians. There will be a time when these measures will be adjusted or lifted, but we want to always err on the side of safety, Avashi, and I think Canadians expect the responsible government to do so.
See that? He never provided any None. No justification for those vaccine mandates. Now let's take a look at another clip of the same CBC reporter telling him that the vaccine does not stop transmission. And watch as he says they just listen to the experts. He'll default to health and safety and once again provides no justification for these mandates. Let's have a look.
When you brought in this mandate, for example, we as a society thought that these vaccines, a double dose of them, would do a lot to curb transmission. We now know that that isn't the case, especially where Omicron is concerned. But they don't curb transmission to the degree that your government and much of Canadian society thought that they would months ago. Does that not merit you taking a second look? And if in fact your government is following the science here,
So, Vashi, you're asking questions that we're regularly examining at the cabinet table. My colleague, Minister Duclos, the Minister of Health, he's constantly listening to the experts that he's receiving. And we are taking all these new information and in reality
but this isn't
into
new.
account.
Respectfully, Minister, I'm sorry to interrupt, but this isn't new information. There are 3 million Canadians right now who can't travel to go to a funeral of a loved one because of this mandate.
The intention here is to protect everyone's health and safety. And I understand there are things that we always need to consider. And as I'm saying, we are erring on the side of public health, and these informations are constantly assessed, they're constantly evaluated. And we've demonstrated in the past, Vashi, that we have lifted measures when we feel that it's the right thing to do. So these assessments are ongoing. And believe me, I always want to do what our government always wants to do, the best for Canadians. And that's what we're aiming to do to protect the health and safety of everyone.
Okay, Minister.
You see how he does not address the science behind the transmission there either? Pretty telling. Now let's look at a clip of Omar deflecting all blame away from the mandates causing delays at airports to other countries' problems while once again giving no examples of them whatsoever. Let's take a look.
So let me be very clear. Public health measures may be part of the reason why we have slowness at the airports, and we're looking at those. But there are other jurisdictions that have volume issues that do not have any public health measures. In Europe, some airports don't have public health measures, yet they are facing similar or if not worse delays. Luggage handling has nothing to do with vaccine mandate, yet we're seeing slow. So all that to say, I'm not saying we're complacent, we need to be complacent, but to reduce the entire surge of traffic volume on public health measures is incorrect. There are other factors that we need to consider.
Okay, so let's take a look at what some major players in the travel and tourism and airport industry are saying about these mandates. In a tweet by WestJet CEO Alexis von Hollensbroek, he says, vaccine mandates for air travelers and employees needs to be dropped. As vaccines are not preventing the spreading of the virus since Omicron, there is no more logic to maintain it. This will also relax some of the operational challenges at the airports. And here's a picture of him on a plane talking about no masks on planes either. Now, in a written statement to CTV News, WestJet reaffirmed the comments made by the CEO. WestJet continues to advocate on behalf of our guests for the removal of pandemic policies that no longer align with science and data and have proven less effective against transmission of the most recent variants of COVID-19. While we are advocating for the immediate involvement of policies that are unique to Canada, airlines remain one of the only federally regulated sectors with vaccination mandates, and we are obligated to remain compliant with Transport Canada's mandate for our employees and guests. So here we have the CEO of WestJet taking a stand against these federal mandates, asking for an end to them as there is no justification for the science or the data of them anymore whatsoever. Let's take a look at what some other people are saying about these mandates. Interim Canadian Airports Council President Monette Pachard said, "We're urging the federal government to take 3 concrete actions in the short term to immediately alleviate pressure on the system. They include removing on-site mandatory testing from Canada's airports, removing the Public Health Agency of Canada's duplicate health check questions at government custom checkpoints, and at the international border, and removing vaccination mandates for CA, TSA, and CBSA workers." So right there, we're having a call for a removal of at least some of these mandates and restrictions by a major player in the airport council industry. Let's take a look at what some other people are saying. Conservative transport critic Melissa Lantsman tweeted, "The government still has not shared any justification for their outdated and out-of-step restrictions." Liberal MP Nate Erskine-Smith said, "Nothing about the reevaluation of travel-related measures has been transparent. It is not clear what Dr. Tam's recommendations are, and there's been no adequate justification provided for continuing the exclusive 2-dose mandate. The justifications for any mandate are to increase rates and reduce transmission risk. But the current mandate has exhausted its usefulness in reaching new people, and the impact of 2 doses on transmission risk is too low, especially given alternative testing options." So there we have major players in the travel, tourism, airport industry calling for an end to these mandates, as well as all of them saying there is no scientific justification for these mandates anymore. So what's my final take on all this? Well, what science are they possibly using to justify these restrictions, these ongoing restrictions and mandates? Well, none. They're not using any. Look at how much data and stats released by the Pfizer docs have been released over the last couple months saying the vaccine does not stop transmission. It is well known. It has been known for almost a year that the shot does not stop transmission. And even in a Walgreens study just a few weeks ago showing double-dosed as well as triple-dosed people over 5 months have the highest rate of testing for positive tests, upwards of 36%, whereas anyone within the 5 months or even unvaccinated only showed about a 20% positive test rate. We know there's no transmission. So when we've heard Justin Trudeau over the last year say the only way out of this pandemic is to get everybody vaccinated, we've known that's not true this whole time because the shot does not stop transmission. So what are they aiming for here really? Another form of science they're using is the deflect method. Just deflect all answers away from the core issue, put it onto what other countries are doing, provide no justification for their answers, just deflect away from the core issue so they don't have to directly answer the question. Another form of science they're using is political. It's always, all they have to do is say it's about health and safety. Just drop the, we have only the interest of the health and safety, the public's health and safety and interest. We got to keep all Canadians safe. That's always their default answer, is health and safety, and never providing an iota of data or statistics, official stats saying what their justification is. They never have to do it. It's all political. And even when pressed by reporters, finally asking the right questions, they employ all these methods of deflection and political narratives and just deflect away from the issue. They don't have to give any justification. They never do because they don't have it. And when pressed, they resort to those methods of deflect and just say it's about health and safety. So there is no science to back up what they're doing. Now, whether this will end on June 30th, we don't know. And we'll see what happens in the future after that. But keep vigilant as to what they're going to keep doing in the future with these restrictions and mandates. Okay, so that's enough about what I have to say. What do you have to say? What do you think about the ongoing restrictions? Are they justified? Is there science? What do you think of the science behind this? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, once you're done commenting, please, if you could, watch this video here and then watch this video here on YouTube, of course. That would be great. And like always, we'll be back again to talk about another topic very soon. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.